All right, it is Tuesday, December 8th. Everybody's feeling good in the nation's capital. The Steelers undefeated no more. You ran up against that buzzsaw. Here is John Riggins from Kansas. We're going to get the latest on his travels, his trail, his campsite, Dexter. Take it away, Riggo.
I feel like what's his name in the show was the plane. You know,
Fantasy
smiles,
Island.
smiles, everyone, smiles all
Fantasy
around.
Island.
Yeah, it definitely is. Good morning, fellas. Todd, how you doing?
We're doing really good. It's really good after that's a heck of a football game.
Dexter, how about you?
Hey, I'm better than good, better than most, because that was a big win yesterday.
Dex,
Last
I think
night-
what I'm going to do, I'm going to recommend that you become a touter. You know, one of those guys that tells people which way to go with the line, because you smelled this one out early last week, and I congratulate you. Listen, I had the unique experience. I don't think I've ever done this before, ever, is I listened to the Mod Squad last night. One white, one black, and one blonde. I've never listened to a game on a radio, a football game on a radio, and listened to it from beginning to end. It was a little bit, there was a couple of segments that I missed, and I really feel bad about this. And I think, and it's going to be interesting to get Dexter's, view of what he saw versus what I heard and was described to me. It's kind of crazy. And unfortunately for me, and I got to say this had to be great television, or at least great viewing, was the goal line stand that they made, in the first quarter or second quarter, whatever it was.
Second quarter.
The thing I was listening on at the time, which was my iPhone, it went off on me, so I scrambled, got my iPad going, but by then the moment was gone. But I really felt like, boy, that was something to have missed, not to have, you should have missed that. Because in some ways, I think that may have been a turning point in the game, and a lot of times that is. Goal line stands by the defense when a team has first and goal, and they shut them out. And then I believe they got a penalty, so they got another set, and they weathered that as well. I don't know where to begin here because there's so many angles to take as you look at this. And let's start from Washington's viewpoint. I think, starting with the defense. The defense obviously held the Steelers to 17 points, which was an excellent effort by the defense. And the offense managed to do just enough and not make any mistakes.
No turnovers.
To be able to get this victory. And, now there's, like I said, you got to kind of take it in stride in a certain way, because obviously, I mean, I don't know, Todd, what did the line finally go off at? Or do you
It got bet
night?
down. It got bet down. A lot of money came in on the Washington football team. So that line started at 9.5. It got bet down to 7 at game time.
Yeah.
And, you saw more of why the Pittsburgh-Baltimore Ravens game, it was almost like a carbon copy relative to how ineffectual Pittsburgh's offense is and how one-dimensional it is. So once again, Ben Roethlisberger threw 51 passes. He threw 51 against the Ravens, and he threw 51 against Washington yesterday. No running game whatsoever.
No running game.
Now, they are missing Marquise Pouncey and their stud running back, who are expected to be back possibly this week. But still, high praise for Washington's defense. What's also, John, Dexter, this shocked me. You realize that for all the pressure they put on Roethlisberger, which was consistent and constant, 0 sacks.
No sacks.
Yeah.
No sacks.
I was surprised at that. But, I was surprised that the Washington hadn't beat them since 1991
That's right.
In
That's
Pittsburgh.
in
Or
Pittsburgh.
maybe
That's
ever,
right.
I don't know. I was going to get, I wanted to hear what Dexter thought of the game because, like I said, he saw it, and I was, relegated to listening to the game. But I'm just wondering, from your perspective, Dexter, what did you see, and I'm just trying to match up who you thought were some of the outstanding players for Washington as to what I'm thinking.
Okay, well, first of all, I thought that, they didn't start fast, but they had a lot of penalties in the first half that was sort of hurting them. Like you said, that stop on the goal line, that was very crucial. But I tell you what I thought that was key, that Dustin Hopkins hit a 48-yard field goal and a 45-yard goal. That's a big plus. And I think that the defense played well. They was getting after the quarterback, but like Todd said, there was no sacks. I think they was throwing the ball quick. Roethlisberger was getting the ball out of his hand. I just think they played well on both sides of the ball.
I got the impression that, from, like I said, listening to the game, that Alex Smith kind of picked it up a little bit, at least as far as maneuverability went. Was that the case? Because, like I said, I had to rely on, the play-by-play.
Yeah. Well, I say he was able to move around out of the pocket, get on the corners. But I was surprised that, they were still getting some nice licks on him, but every time he would get hit, I would cringe a little bit.
Yeah. There were a couple of hits, John, that were cringe-worthy. And then when they showed it right before the half in which blood was spurting out of his.
Seriously?
Luckily, his uninjured. It was nasty looking, and they came out, and the entire sock was filled up with blood.
Yes.
And then you're sitting there, and everybody, you freak out right away, and you realize, oh my goodness, thank God it's his good leg. It's not the repaired leg. And that was right before the half. They taped it up, and he somehow got spiked down low around like the top part of the ankle. But it was nasty looking.
It was.
That if blood was spurting, if I'm not mistaken, that indicates it was an artery that had gotten sliced.
Well, he said afterwards, it was quite a gusher, and that he hadn't had one and like that, and you could see his sock filling up.
Right.
So obviously maybe it was just a cut that they realized afterwards, but I mean Alex Smith. You now see why they did go with him, because if he can manage a ball game like that,
he
played just good enough and did not turn the ball over.
I have to say, Haskins could not have done that.
I agree, Dexter, and I think that's what you get with a 16-year veteran quarterback who should be doing and managing the game the way that he is managing it.
Yeah. John, what do you think that can Haskins pull that off like last night?
Well, that's a question that really you can't answer, and the reason I say that is, I mean, he did it against the Philadelphia Eagles in the first game of the season, so to speak. But the fact is that think of all the reps that he's missed, and the experience that's behind him. No, I think, face up, I mean, you can't take a guy that's as experienced as Alex Smith and compare him with somebody as inexperienced as Dwayne Haskins. And I agree with you guys. And when you think about it, that's basically kind of the essence, my take, of Alex Smith. I mean, he'll never live up to the number one, his number one draft pick overall back, what was it, in 2001, 2, somewhere back in there.
16 years ago.
Or 4, I don't know. But at the same time, he's a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback. He can do exactly everything you ask of him, which is to manage the game, to not make mistakes, to know the game plan, to have poise. He does all that stuff, and basically that's all you'll ever get out of Alex Smith. Which there's nothing wrong with that if you've got the ponies around him. That can be a winning combination.
Well,
it looks like, and this offensively speaking, that they do have a few ponies around him, and in other words, they're finding pieces and they're starting to kind of put things together. And the thing here now, you have to temper everything that we're saying with who they played. They played the Steelers, and basically on what I heard, and comparing it, or said adding to last Wednesday night's game that they played against Baltimore, that team's coming apart at the seams. And I think that they may have been pretenders. They may be the worst 11-0 team to play in the NFL. And I think they're being discovered as fraudulent. And if you think of their game plan, the way it sounded, is all they do is they throw balls to the flats and try to get guys, or real quick short passes. That's all they do with no run. How are you going to win doing that? How have they beaten anybody doing that? So it's kind of, the good thing about this is, though, is the psychological effect, the psychological bounce that the team gets from this. Because they, unless they really have analyzed this, and I don't think players that young would do that, they wouldn't think to themselves, Pittsburgh is the most overrated 11-0 team to play in the NFL. What they'll get psychologically is we knocked off the only undefeated team in the NFL, and it happened to be the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is a huge brand. I would think that if you're the Washington football team and you're a player in that locker room this morning, that the wind that you've got in your sails now and the momentum that that gives you, I think that really the team will start to gel, if that's the right word, in a way that they're going to start becoming a more difficult team to play because they're demonstrating resilience and they're a stick-to-itness and an ability to come from behind. And I'll tell you what, that goes a long ways. And if nothing else, and once again, we've always said this, it's the teams that start playing well at the end of the season. We're in December.
That's right.
And this team has won 3 games in a row. That starts to change your outlook. And boy, I'm going to tell you something. I think maybe even past physical ability, it's what's up here that counts. And if that team has their mind right, and like I said, they've got that defense is starting to feel good about itself. Hey, guess what, folks? It might be a whole new ball game.
Well, that defense, like you say, they were stout. And do you realize between the two teams, Pittsburgh and Washington, they ran 12 plays from the respective 1-yard lines. 12 plays and only 1 touchdown ended up being scored out of that. There was some incredible goal line stances on both sides of the ball, but Washington in particular could have been a couple of backbreakers. I think also getting that field goal right before the end of the half was critical because then Washington came out and got the ball and marched right down the field. A 14-play, 82-yard drive with Peyton Barber going in from the 1. And the other observation, John, I have, and it's fascinating when you talked about, John was referencing the Mod Squad, which is the Washington football team broadcast crew of Julie, Bram, and D'Angelo. And so for him to get a perspective only hearing a game without seeing it with the pictures, because the one thing that was stunning to me, I think I went to sleep seeing J.D. McKissick do a 10-yard down and out in the flat. I think he caught 10 of those. I mean, Pittsburgh had nothing for that. You remember that, Dexter? I mean, McKissick all day long, he killed them.
Yeah, that was 41, right?
Yeah. And Antonio Gibson went out with a toe injury, and they're not sure how bad that is, but he couldn't play anymore, so he was out.
I think he's going to be out at least about 3 weeks. A toe injury, that's crucial as a football player, period.
Yeah, you need all 10 of them.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, no. I had a bad toe injury a couple times in my career. I was in the lineup the next week. Come on, kid, get out there. Show us what you got.
You were fighting your guts out.
Around.
Well,
That's what you get when you camp out for 8 nights in the wilderness. You start growing a veneer, a hide on you. I'm starting to feel like a buffalo hunter out here, tell you the truth.
Yeah, they don't make them the same. From the 60s, 70s, 80s, and the 90s start going down because they start expanding more teams. It's the cream of the crop. Go ahead, John.
Anyway, it's getting back to I originally asked. I thought, based on what I was listening to, obviously Cal Sims is starting to come alive. I mean, and all of a sudden you're seeing a guy on the other side takes a lot of pressure off McLaurin. And obviously their game plan was to take McLaurin out of the game. I guess he had an opportunity on a deep ball that went through his hands, but it was one of those,
it would have been it was a catchable ball, but it would have been a hell of a catch. But yeah, the defender got in there some.
But what I noticed with McLaurin, he's running from the slot now versus the out. He runs plays from the slot.
Well, and the other guy I thought was Logan Thomas again comes up huge.
Great
guy. And it's really, it's so funny where I think, at least me in particular, because, when we had, when I played, Donnie Warren was really pretty much a blocker. I mean, occasionally they'd throw Donnie the ball, but the tight end wasn't used as they are today. I mean, of course, then Clint Didier came in and kind of, was a tight end, but he is also considered the H-back. But it's funny how critical, if you get good play from that position, man, it can change your whole offense and make things a lot easier for everybody.
It spreads the offense.
Yeah, exactly. And in the offensive line, they gave up early on. They gave up, they pressure, and they were bringing players, lining up 6 people. Sometimes they brought, and they got early on. They got Alex Smith and a couple of sacks when they were down in field goal territory, or actually down to the red zone, and all of a sudden they had 2 sacks back to back. But overall, the offense, they were adequate. They did what they had to do. And, they didn't turn the ball over. So, to me, it was close a couple times, but it didn't happen. And then I heard the name DeShazer Everett on defense. I thought he must have played pretty well. Cameron Curl led the team in tackles, and he was around the ball, and John Bostic with a big interception. And I think that's probably what, what the defense is doing here with Jack Del Rio. The stress that he's putting on his defense, and this is really what all the great defenses do. When they locate the ball, everybody flies to the football. And Dexter, you know that from playing. When you got guys that will pursue the football, no matter how far it is down the field, you're onto something there.
That's correct. I forgot.
Well, I'll tell you what, Montez Sweat, again, he had 3 passes defended. He came up big, and that final batted ball down because, it was poised for Pittsburgh to come down and do their thing, and they had a chance on that one out pattern that the guy just put himself in a poor position to catch the ball, the running back that came out of the backfield. But then Sweat, again, another job well done. Bostic, probably his best game to date. He had 10 tackles in the pick that you referenced, John.
I think as a defensive lineman, when you got a quarterback, Roethlisberger, get the ball out of his hand, the best thing you could do is jump up, bat the ball down, because it's more than likely you're not going to get to the quarterback unless you blitz. And I think
and he's not a guy that's looking to scramble and make many plays.
Not after 17 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and I agree with you, Dexter. And the thing there is, unless the only way you
lost,
what they call a coverage sack. If he's got no, on those quick outs, if the defense happens to guess right or they're playing it perfectly, he's got no place to throw the football, then you've got a chance. But I think probably in the big picture, as much as they throw the quick stuff, that is exactly right. Everybody just get, when he cocks that arm, just get up in the air and, try to knock the ball down. But that was, like I said, that was kind of stunning to me. Pittsburgh, they had it was one of the great escapes they made last Wednesday against Baltimore.
Right.
And so you figure that, you're really going to get, and I think that's where everybody gets pulled into it. I'm not afraid to admit it. You're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers and they're at home and they just played terrible on against the Baltimore Ravens, their arch rival. Boy, they're going to be really ready to play this game. Well, they may have been ready to play, and if they were, I think that tells you, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Washington because they had a daunting task to go in there and beat this football team, but to me, I'm thinking, I could be wrong now. There may be a resurrection, but I think we may be seeing the demise of the Pittsburgh Steelers for 2020. I think that they pulled the, the linchpin on them last night. If I'm a Steeler myself and I'm in the locker room, I'm starting to second guess stuff that's going on because just what you guys said, they cannot. They might Pouncey may make a difference, but do you really think it would be a significant difference where they can't pound the ball in from the 1 yard line? That's what Steelers were known for, right? Yeah. And they were, a muscle team. And nowadays, the way they play, it's like, which is fine. You can rebrand yourself at any point in time. But it was a stone wall those backs were running into. That's how formidable the defense was. And I think that's also a part of how inconsistent Pittsburgh is. And really, honestly, when you get down to it, they don't believe in the run, and they just do it to see maybe we'll catch you sleeping. And to Washington's credit, they never caught them sleeping.
Well, I tell you what, I don't think Pittsburgh been playing well the last 3 weeks. They pulled off one against Baltimore the week before that, and Washington went in there yesterday, and beat them.
Yeah, and John, back to your point of where you want to be, what stage of the season. You were undefeated. You were the biggest hype. You're starting to see they've been exposed now. Their wide receivers dropped 7 balls. They dropped 7 balls against Baltimore. They dropped at least that many last night. And I stand corrected. Roethlisberger, He threw 53 passes last night. Can you imagine, John? 51 the week
Yeah,
before and 53 this week. The Pittsburgh Steelers.
There's no running game.
None. The drop
Yeah,
balls,
well, that's
the
my
drop
point.
balls were just terrible. I mean, this it wasn't professional grade, as you like to say.
I would like to hear Mike Tomlin at the podium and see what he had to say.
Well, they were junior varsity against
right.
the Ravens. Maybe they're freshmen. They were freshman football after
No,
last night.
no, Todd, I think we're down to ankle biters. I think that's how far the mighty Pittsburgh Steelers have fallen. Not only this, after these humiliating, well, the one was a win, but in a way, against Baltimore was a humiliating win, but I guess, a win is a win. But last night they were humiliated.
yes.
And I think that other teams that they got to still play Cleveland. Cleveland's still smarting from that earlier loss to them in the season. You could make the argument that Pittsburgh may not win another game, which would be one of the all-time greatest collapses. And honestly, I can see that happening. I don't know, I don't know who would be left on their schedule, but right now, I would say, maybe, but I think they've already played the Jets, haven't they? If they had a shot at the Jets, I'd say, okay, they probably got a chance to win one, but I honestly am not overly convinced that team will win another game.
Yeah. And you know what? They're a good defense, and the Washington football team still beat you. That's what helped protect Alex Smith.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, so as it all relates back to the wild and wacky NFC East and what turned into a pillow fight, might actually be a real dog fight here. So you've got the Giants at 5-7. You realize the Giants have won 4 in a row. Washington's won 3 in a row.
Yeah.
Washington travels. Now, we discussed this a little bit, John. They play San Francisco, who lost to Buffalo last night on Monday Night Football. That was a good ball game. And I tell you what, San Francisco, I believe they said last night they have 17 players on injured reserve, and the bulk of them were starters.
Yeah.
But some of the young talent that they got out there played really well last night. Now, Washington is going to travel to Glendale, Arizona, because San Francisco has to play their home games down at the Arizona Cardinals Stadium because of COVID.
They just should stay out there in
Glendale.
In Glendale,
I think they are. I'm not 100% sure. So that is the late game on Sunday. And as this race is tightened up now, so you've got the Giants, they've got the lead based on the head-to-head competition, but both the Giants and Washington are 5-7. Philly's done. Dallas has been done.
Yeah.
So it's a two-horse race, and you've got the Giants. They play the Arizona Cardinals this week. Arizona has lost 3 in a row. They're 6-6. So it's going to be interesting here these last couple of weeks, which, hey, it's all, make it, it's competitive, right? We all would rather see this than the woeful New York Jets.
Yeah. So the Giants have the lead because they beat the Redskins twice.
Correct.
And is it by points or about the fact they've won?
It's no points. No
Okay.
points are involved.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's 2 wins. Yeah, you never know. That's why early in the season when the NFC was really, falling apart, it's so strange how teams can basically arrest their fall and end up, somehow becoming a team, you have to contend with. And I know when I go back, Dexter, to the team that we played on in 1981, a team that lost its first 5 games and, looked like maybe the new rookie coach was going to be fired and kind of arrested its fall and turned out, and going 8-8 that year and beating some teams that people would have thought you had no business beating. So, in some ways, I think then there's a little bit of validation going on here. And you have to feel, I think, for Ron Rivera, I think that, you can see what he's done, the belief that he had in Alex Smith. If they'd have listened to me, Alex Smith would not be on your team. I don't know who'd be the other quarterback. It could be some whiz-bang. I don't know. But the point being is they held the course, and it turned out to be, the right move. And I think that, and this is so important, that the players, they're feeling so good about themselves, and they feel good about their coach. Man, I'm telling you, when it gets like that, Dexter, I think that to me, in my experiences, in football, is more important than having a bunch of guys that are really great talent, but really have apathetic, or in other words, their minds aren't right, so to speak. And I think that this team is getting its mind right collectively. And so, like anything else, it'll go down to the wire. I mean, and now now you look at the NFC East and you're thinking, with the way at least New York and Washington has played, you're going, you know what? One of these teams going to get a home game. You may not want to come to New York or Washington to play these teams all of a sudden if you end up, having to play that first weekend. So, it's one of those things where, and I'll never forget this, years ago, there was a game, and I think it was when Washington was playing at RFK, and they were playing the Philadelphia Eagles. And I can't remember which way the game was, but it was a Monday night game. Somebody was all over somebody, and people were leaving the stands, like in the middle of the fourth quarter. And before they got to the cars, they could hear the roar of the crowd. So it must have been Philly was ahead. People left early. And all of a sudden, it was one of those deals where, what did I miss? Well, you missed one of the greatest comebacks that we've seen. Yeah. So I think if you can say that about the NFC East, we may be witnessing a comeback of at least two teams. And maybe it's only two teams, but still, the NFC East, you got to have a little pride in your division. And, so it's nice to see that resurrection that's going on there.
Yeah, well, what I like about this is the fact that these young players can be stars in this town. Because when John and I played, I tell you something. When we won big games, I can go to Duke Zebra and get a free meal.
Yeah. I think you could have gone anywhere and received the free meal.
So I think these players, they want to continue this. They got to keep winning and be the stars of the town and go around and get free meals.
It's all about that food.
And I would go to Duke Zebert's and I got free beer. Ernest Hemingway said, beer is food.
I think there's an old movie once We Were Kings.
Right.
Yes.
So Riggo, how's it going? How's it going out west, man? How's it going out on the prairie?
Well, I'll tell you what. This is kind of weird. I don't know. I think Chongo may have me figured out. I'm not sure. By the way, Dexter.
Yes.
It dawned on me out here in the past several days that if you were a deer, you would be Chongo.
I probably would be. Yeah.
Yes, you definitely would be Chongo. No, I was out here, and Dexter, that moment you talked about, was I crying and having tears? Last night, it was weird. The sun was setting, and I was out there looking off into the west, and it was really kind of a crimson color right next to the horizon.
Yes.
And you could see the sun had already gone down, and you could see the prairie, and you're going back and what you grew up with. And I was starting to get one of those moments, Dex.
That's what I'm looking for.
Dexter wants tears, John. Did you cry?
Tears. I want tears.
Okay, I tell you what, Dex, I made it a point to think about something else because you might have just gotten your way. Because like you said, you start thinking of growing up there, you think of your mom and dad, and you think of the, the land that that, like I said, that was home to you for so long.
Right.
Yeah, it kind of got to me. And I will tell you another observation I've had while I'm out here. And that is that when those coyotes cut in last night while I was laying in bed, now I've heard coyotes, do their but you listen to those coyotes, and if you give yourself as an actor, if you give yourself something different, and I gave myself a little something like voices from the dead, like haunting spirits that are out there. Let me tell you something. I had to quit thinking about that because honestly, those coyotes are so real. They sound like people that are, that are in agony, that they're dying or that they're dead. And I changed the thought and went, they're just coyotes. They're just coyotes.
You had some old souls looking to settle some scores.
Hey, John, if you
and then last night I'm listening to the game. Dex, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you
off. That's okay. When you have some of those feelings, you come up. When you FaceTime that to me, I'm gonna take it to my psychiatrist in Houston, George Glass, and we're gonna analyze that.
I can tell you what, the dreams would be better, but yeah, go ahead. Talk to George and see what he thinks. Yeah. But last night, I had this. Go ahead.
No, I just want you to FaceTime me when I see the tears so I can send that to I send that to my shrink and we'll analyze that.
Okay, Dex, I'm going to work on that. I think tonight if you know, the weather here has been unbelievable. It's supposed to be 60 degrees today.
Get out of
Yesterday,
here.
I was walking around.
Get
Listen
out
to
of
this. Yesterday, I was walking around and I tried, Todd, that little deal you gave me, the tripod thing. I tried to set it up and do it on a time thing to take a photo of me, but I'm walking around bare chested, and I was going to send it back to you in a text and say, has anybody seen Vladimir? You know?
You were going all
Remember
Putin,
the
huh?
picture of him?
Putin in the woods.
Yeah. Well, remember when he was on the horse riding around bare chested?
Tough guy. Wait,
Yeah,
I'll tell you
so
what, we're
anyway.
freezing our butts off back here. Not happy about this.
That's
A lot
right.
warmer out your way.
It
Hey,
gets chilly at night. But
Hey, John, I want to ask you a question.
ahead.
Yeah. I use the word fear. What is this most scariest thing since you've been on this trip that's that has been a human emotion for you? Have you found
I'll tell
anything?
you what, last night, I was listening to the game, and so I'm sitting there listening, and it's dark. Of course, I did have the night light on, but all the same, all of a sudden, from my left side, I felt like I felt a presence. You know what I mean? Like somebody was there. And I'm going to tell you something. For a nanosecond, I kind of did. And I'm thinking literally, who in the hell would be in my camp? I mean, because I'm thinking, if they're there, they ain't got good intentions. But once again, I quickly suppressed that thought. And I went back to listening to the game. But just for some reason, I had this reflex. It was kind of almost like I didn't want to look because I was afraid it would be somebody.
And it
So I
could
got a
probably,
little- I
you
got a
know,
little nervous.
John, it's probably only the psycho from the mental institution that escaped in every movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. With the hook for a hand, right? In fact, when I went around to the driver's side door, to the passenger side door this morning, there was just a hook hanging in the handle. So,
What's
you
a
heard
hook?
that old story.
A
But,
hook, a person that doesn't have they used to replace it with a hook, and there's
Captain
it's
Hook
an old legend.
Oh.
It's an old legend that used to scare you. You can get that tale told to you at the Boy Scout camp at night when they try to scare you. And
That wasn't in the hood.
Dex, you was a Boy Scout.
Yeah, come on.
I
Did
know
you
it.
make that up, Dexter?
No, I was a Boy Scout.
All right, Rigo. So you're gonna hang out there till on Thursday?
It's changing. Yeah, well, I think that's probably because I think we're getting some weather come in, and there's no sense. I'm out there on mud roads once it rains pretty heavy, and it'll be a mess trying to strike camp in the rain and possibly a little bit of snow. I think that's supposed to be coming in on Friday, so I'll go out this afternoon. I'll look for Chongo one more time, and like I've been telling people, I'm starting to think Chongo is a myth created in my mind. He doesn't exist. But,
Okay.
and then my brother's telling me that who knows, maybe I'll see Chongo eye to eye today, and then that's when the tears will really start flowing.
Okay, John, I got a question. Have you bought? You gonna bring any wildlife back? You say was it deer meat?
Yeah, venison.
Yeah, you gonna bring some.
venison.
Are you gonna bring a deer meat? I never had deer meat before. Sausage.
Well,
you
they
said
would have to
Store
swallow
bought, but he's
hard
gonna
and-
bring it.
you said
and shoot
sausage.
Yeah, well, I would have to, like I said, swallow hard and swallow my pride and maybe take out Chongo's sister. And I don't know, maybe if I do that, maybe that'll get Chongo all fired up and he'll want a piece of me.
I don't know who's Chongo.
Then he'll
Chongo's the
go.
mythical.
Oh.
Chongo's the mythical, magical, badass deer that exists.
Oh.
The Bucks rack that would score 300 in a Boone and Crockett. Like it's unattainable. That's who I'm after. Kind of like, in a way, maybe this is the retelling of Moby Dick, and I'm Captain Ahab after the great white whale. I have no idea.
Okay.
Anyway, guys, I think it's time for Rigo out.
Okay.